Hello friends, I hope so you're doing well. So let me actually close this one. Let me close this one also. So welcome to this video first of all. So here in this particular video we will basically be making a YouTube short of video in one stack, YouTube short of website in one stack. Okay, so we'll be making a website where you can upload videos and then you can see them very easily, like sort of YouTube. Okay, so YouTube is like much more complex than this. This will only cover like how to upload a video file, how to generate a thumbnail out of it, and all those stuff. So I think it is going to be cool. So let's start. This will be in one stack. Okay, so we'll be using React, Express, and many other libraries actually. So let's start. First of all, let's create the folder in which our application will be living. So let's call it something. So let's say video maker. Okay, let's call it video maker. Okay, so here you can see this is the folder in which we are. Let's open terminal over here, and the first thing we'll be doing is actually initializing a git repo over here. So git init. Okay, then let's let's create the backend first over here. So yes, we'll say npm init, and then /y to answer all the question which it asks, to answer them all of them as yes, because answering each of those questions individually, it's like tedious. Okay, the next thing we'll be doing is installing some of the packages. So let's start by installing Express, Cores, Helmet. If you don't know what all these all of these things, all of these libraries do, then don't worry, like that's not a big deal. Like I'll definitely explain you like how these things actually work. So npm install Express, Cores, Helmet. Anything else? Yes, of course, Morgan, .env, bcrypt, JSON web token. Okay, what else do we need? I don't know. Okay, we'll install it if we like in future. If I just remember it, what was it, I'll install it. For now it is fine. Okay, so npm install Express, Cores, and like while at the time it is installing, let me tell you what this do. Express, all of us know, for coding all of our API. Cores is actually this is like something called cross origin. I don't know the full form, but still, like, this is used to restrict or control which front end, or which you can say which front end URL is actually going to is allowed to fetch or post data from your API. That's like that. Okay, so we have installed all these libraries. So the next thing we'll be doing is actually start coding a server. So we'll be coding the server first, and then after we'll be moving towards the client side. So let's say code, yeah, so we'll be using Visual Studio Code. You can use any editor of your choice. I don't know why two of my Chromium thing is open. Let it be. Okay, let's wait until this my Visual Studio Code opens. Okay, now you can see my VS Code has, I think, opened. My PC sometimes becomes slow, so if you find like I'm delaying the thing, you can just skip like 2 or 3 minutes or 5 or 10 seconds like after, so that you don't have to wait. Okay, so whatever the thing is, like, let's start by creating our Express server. So we will create a file called index.js, which will be the starting point of our server. Okay, and so let's start. First of all, we'll now I'll be going a little fast because we are actually making a pretty a decent size, like in one video. For one video, this is a decent size application, so I have to go a little fast, otherwise we would we will be very much like behind. We will not be able to complete it if we will not go fast. So express exp, okay, why am I writing that? express, and here also ress. Okay, the next thing is like we need a port on which our application will be running. So we'll say process dot env, like if there is, why am I making so much port? So if there is an already predefined port by the system, just use that, or use port 8080. And let's now say start the system, sorry, listen on where, on this particular port. And after the server starts, simply log what is server started on port, server started on port, whatever port we are. Yeah, so that will basically like get, and okay, then the next thing we have to do is actually add a git ignore file over here. So dot git ignore node modules. Now it's fine. Yeah, so we have added git ignore file, so that like that thing is not there. The next thing we'll be doing is actually making an error handler. Now what is error handler? Error handler is like if any error happens in our website, in our API, this will handle it. That's as simple as like that. So let's call it error handler. And how do you create that? Request response. Sorry, there's an error also in the like beginning. So error request response. And next, so if you have these 4 parameters in your middleware in the Express, that means it is a error handler. Okay, so like we can send a response with status code 500, because this is some like this will go like the error handler will only be approached if there is some unhandleable expression, like the exception, like okay. So let's call result is false. Now what is the approach is like if we assign any task to the backend, let's say I want to log in, okay, so that will result like that will give a response as a result, that is res, and that would be false or true. So if that is true, then whatever task we assign to the backend is successful. If it is false, then the task is unsuccessful. So let's call it message. So there was some internal server problem, okay, and then we can say error. So like here actually in development mode we don't want this error to show, so let's create a variable called isDev, which is it a development environment or not, and let's call it process.env. Node environment, like so wait, okay, so node environment env, if it is not equal to a production, that means this is a development environment. We already use it here. Yeah, if it is not equal to that is it means it is a development environment. So we can say if it is a development environment, then simply log out the error, or say please contact the developer. You can write anything over there, just I have written that, I don't know why. Then we can say that app dot use that error handler, okay. I think this will be fine. So this will automatically like use it whenever there is an error or something. The next thing we have to make is like a 404 route. So whenever like none of the route actually matches, we want this route to send like the URL was wrong. So we can say app dot all request response dot status code 404 dot send res is false and message is the resource you are looking for does not exist. Let's make it simpler. The path does not exist. Okay, so if like any, and let's specify all the middlewares over here. So all the middlewares will be over here. All the middlewares will be over here, and let's actually first of all import all of these things. So let's call it Morgan is equal to require Morgan. Then we have let what is the next? Now we have course, right? So require course. Next what we have? Okay, if we'll be remembering something, we'll be adding it later on. Okay, so use first of all, let's go with course. And if you leave this empty, this will automatically allow all the URLs from every sources to contact your API. And if you give some configuration over here, this will only allow when a specific URL which you allow in the configuration to contact your API. For now, we will not be giving the configuration. If you want to deploy it in production, you can definitely check it out. Okay, so app.use Morgan. I should not use Morgan over here. Now what is Morgan? Morgan is actually a logging tool. So whenever a request comes, it will log, and this helps in debugging. The next thing we'll be doing is actually app.use, because we'll be handling a lot of JSON related data. So we'll call it JSON. And the next thing we'll be calling it app.use express.url and encoded. And this will help us to pass the form data and all. Okay. So that's all the middlewares. That's our 404 route. That's our error handler, and I think for now that's okay. The next thing we'll be doing is actually creating a routes folder in which all our routes will be living. So let's call it index.js. Inside the route I've created index.js and another file called authentication.js. This will handle all the authentication part. If you're really thinking why am I not testing my application, because that takes a lot of time, so I just want to make a very large part of the application, then after I'll just test it. So let's actually import the express router. Let's call it router. So and then export it. So export is equal to router. Then we can say router dot use whatever thing you want to use. But first of all, let's create this authentication route. So this will handle everything about authentication. So okay, okay, so let's actually start writing login logic. Actually, I have created a video in authentication. So if you really want a very detailed a video regarding authentication, I have created a concept also of how JWT based authentication, I'll put a card over here or somewhere so that you can actually have a look and see how does that works. So let's call it register first. Let's call it register. Okay, so once we have done that, one more thing, we need next also over here, because we will have sort of scenarios where we can have an unhandleable exception over here, so which will go to the error handler. So register. Now the first thing which I'll do is that's it, I believe, and there will be one more route called, now this is not a get request, this is a post request, and this is also post request, and this will be a login route which will be responsible for logging user in. Okay, and this will also have a next function. So let's make all the thing first, and then after some of you must be saying why are you not using passport.js and all, because I think this will give you much more insight about how things actually work. I think we could have implemented Google login and Facebook login and all, but for now let's continue with this, and I think that would be fine. Okay, and one more route will be there, so where will be verifying the token. So let's call it post request. verify token, yeah, request, and a response and a next function. Okay, okay, that's all. These three things actually we have to write. First is register, then the login, and the verify token. Okay, so the next thing is, what is the next thing? The next thing is we have to set up our database and all, because without user you cannot create a user, right? Without like a database. So let's create a database thing, folder, database folder, and let's call it index.js. I think we forgot to install mongoose, so let's do that. So npm install mongoose. I will be using mongodb for the database. You can use any other database of your choice, so you're free to do that. Yeah, so mongoose has been successfully installed in our project. So let's now call it mongoose equal to require mongoose. Okay, and now if you're thinking how does the database work, it's very simple. There's a function called connect which will help us to connect to our database. So now we'll be writing the link which is provided, like the database URL which is provided from the, I'll be using Atlas for this, which is like it provides some free online MongoDB hosting. Like you can use that too. You can use the local also as per you want. So use new URL parser to true and use unified topology to true. These two things are like, you must select these two things to true if you don't want console logs, ugly console logs, like it like logs a lot of things. I don't like that, that's why. Okay, once you have the connect, you will have your database. So let's call it mongoose dot what happened dot connection. That is actually the database, and we can say on open. So whenever the connection is open, you will say console.log connected to the database successfully. Okay, so we have connected to the database successfully, and if some error happens, we'll simply say dot once error. If any error happens, what we'll do is log what happens. The cursor of like the left and right key of my keyboard is like very weird. So there was some error connecting to the database, and now let's log the error. So let's call it error, and from where will we get the error? It's here. Okay, yeah, that's all. That's what we need to connect with the database. And that's the next thing we need is schema. Like, don't be impatient, I'll be running the application, but for now let me create it, because don't worry, yeah, be patient here. You can run your application. Yeah? Just create like the whole app with me, and you can run yours and see. Okay, so the next thing we want is let's create a folder. Let's call it model folder. Okay, this will contain all the database models. So the first is user.js. So let's call it mongoose is equal to required mongoose. Yeah, the next thing we will do is module dot exports is equals to, I don't know what am I doing. Let's create let user schema be equal to mongoose. Not like that, man, not Morgan, I mean mongoose. dot schema. So now you can create a schema over here, and once you create the schema, you can actually export it by saying mongoose dot model. Okay, and you have to specify name over here, so we'll specify name. So this will, like, if you specify user, it will create a users collection. Whatever you specify, it will automatically make it plural. Okay, so let's call it user schema. Let's now actually start specifying all the things. So we need a username, which will be required. Okay, and the type will be string. Okay, let's copy this particular thing for the email, for the password. Do we need anything else? I don't think so. So let's change this particular thing to email and this particular thing to password. Okay, you can have like a plethora of information over here. I only have these. Okay, so let's go to authentication, right? So let's now import this user over here to create it actually. So let's say let user be equal to require / database / what models / user. Yeah, you have the user now. So the next thing we'll be doing is actually creating the user by registering it. So the data will be in the request.body. Now we don't have to validate this data, we just have to what you can say, we just have to hash, like salt and hash and salt the password and save everything. Okay, so let's call it try over here, because and let's if any error comes, we'll simply send it to error handler. And let's make this function async function, because this will actually connect to our database. So async function. Okay, the next thing we have to do is actually to hash, to hash and sort the password. So we would need a bcrypt library. So let hash is equal to await bcrypt. We have to import it. Let bcrypt is equal to require bcrypt prt not. Okay, so bcrypt dot hash what is the data we want to hash. So I want to hash data dot password, and the next thing is we're gonna hash it in 10 rounds, and I think there's a callback which we don't want. So that will give us a hash. So this is the hash, and if any error comes, it will automatically go to the catch block. So that's something extremely cool. The next thing we want to do is we want to say data dot a password is equal to hash. We could have like actually done like we could have made this much more shorter. Sorry for the noise, I cannot do anything for this. We could have done this, so this would like simply replace the existing password with an hash, and that's it. Like now we are good to actually one more thing, we have to search for that the user actually already exists or not with the same name or not. So let's say let exists be equal to user dot exists. Now you have to give parameters over here. So we want email to be data dot email. So you have to write await over here again. Okay, so if the user already exists, we will not allow the user to create another account with the same email ID. So if user already exists, then response dot send res false message user another user with the same email already exists. Okay, so like if the user already exists, so if the user does not exist, then only will like create a new account for him or whatever this is. Okay, okay, well, we are coding the first like in this first part we'll be coding all the backend. In the second part we'll be coding all the front end, so I think that would be cool. Like creating all this in one video would not be possible, would not be practical also. I don't know, like that. Let's see, like if I would be feeling to create like all of these in one video, I'll do that, or else we'll be continuing in the next video. So we'll say res dot, what am I doing? Like I was creating a new user, right? So it's called user is equal to new user with whatever the data user provider. Actually, you should not do it. See, this is not what is recommended. Okay, so you should always validate the data before like creating a model out of it. Okay, I'm doing it because we are short on time. Okay, you have to promise me that you will definitely validate the data before like putting this into this. Okay, this is something important. So after this user has been created, we can actually say like we can get a saved user. You can use a library called Joy actually, yeah, it was Joy to validate the data. It's a very cool library. You can actually search it on Google if you want. So let's call it this will be an await, because asynchronous user dot save. That's it. So we have created a new user. So the next thing we have to actually do is generate a generate a token out of it. So let token be is equal to, let's put any information over here. So let's say name, saved user dot name, and email, saved user dot email. Okay, once that is done, so we have the token. Now we just have to, this is not the token actually, this is the data. So let's call it token data. Let's generate the token over here. So let token be equal to what should be there. So we need JSON web token for this. So let's do that. Let JWT, which is JSON web token, be is equal to require JSON web token, and let's do it. So let's call it JWT dot J. I've written JET. JWT dot I think what was it? Sign. Yeah. So this is a sign. So you have to give a payload function like a data over here, and then you need a secret. Okay, so if you have any secret in your node app, you store it in .env file, right, as an environment variable. And one more thing, it is very important to put this in git ignore. Never push your .env file. Okay, never ever do that. Okay, so next thing we have to do is a token JWT sign dot token data, whatever this is, and to actually token data, and now we need this key. So how will you process dot env dot let's create one. So let's call it JWT pass. Now why do I write jet whenever and let's call it some password. You have to keep it very tough and all, because you know this is like very important for security and all. Why am I here? Wait, okay, let's just go away. this will be process.env.jwt password, because that's what we have created, right? So that's it. Once these two things are given, you will have a token generated. You can just use this token to set a response.cookie, and let's name it the JWT as cookie name, and let's give the token as cookie. Response.send response true, message user created successfully. What's next? The next thing is to, that's it. Yeah, one more thing, we need to give the token also. Like if in some cases what happened, this cookie does not work, so we can set it manually in the front end. That's all for register. See, the next thing is we have to write a login feature. Now let's do this. So after writing the register feature, let's write the login feature. So let data be is equal to request dot body. The first thing we have to do is like write a try catch block, so that if there is any error, that could be handled properly. Okay, and let's find one, and we have to actually give parameters over here. So data dot email, sorry, this should be like email, like this is the user. Remember to, like, if you use await, the function should be async function. Have we done this for this? Yeah. So if this user is null, that means like the user is like user does not exist in the database with. So if the user is present, that's okay. Otherwise, just response.send, like, I don't know, unauthorized, what is the status code for that? I think 401. Okay. The next thing we have to do is response, this is false, message user with this email does not exist. Okay, the next thing is, actually if the user exists, we have to check its password, right? So again we have to use bcrypt.compare, and data dot password, which is the actual password. The next thing is we have to give the encrypted one. So encrypted is user or password, and that's it. So it's a let same be is equal to await. Okay, so this will give result in true or false. Okay, so if this is same, okay, if same, authenticated successfully. If not, so if that is not the same case, we can status again on authenticated. I think 401. See, I am not sure whether this is 401 is the false message, incorrect password. Okay, and now if this is same, then only the login is successful, and then we have to generate a token. Actually, you can redirect it with the yeah, whatever this is, let's generate a token. Yeah, and let's actually generate a token now. So we'll say let token is equal to what is the token? It's gwt dot sign, and we have to give the payload over here, so which is token data, and the next thing which it wants is a secret, so that is like process dot env dot process.env dot what process.env dot jwt secret. Okay, jwt pass, it was like, I'm writing it wrong, man. If you go and see like in .env file, it is jwt pass. Yeah, once that is done, like once you have this token created, you can actually send it in response. So what is happening? Test dot okay, jwt not and the value is token res dot send result. Here will be true, message will be user logged in successfully, but I think here should be like user credential successfully, like logged in I cannot unsure, like sure, like make sure that, so user credentials are correct. I know the spelling of credential may be wrong, but we'll correct it. Just I'll like put the, I'll just host the whole code on GitHub. You can definitely contribute. Actually my battery is like running out. That's all. Like verified token and all we'll be writing tomorrow, so I think that's it for now. We'll be also like testing the whole application and all, I think tomorrow. Thank you for joining. But this was part 1, by the way. I thought I'll be finishing the whole video in like the whole thing in one video, but that was over ambitious, and I don't think so that is like practical to I don't think so it is practical to complete the whole thing in one video. I think it will be a 3 video part. So thank you, have a great day, bye bye.